Thanks for joining the call. I am the chair of the Affirmative Action Committee. My name is Trayshawn Griffin Nordermeer. I am based in the Netherlands. The committee was appointed by the previous international chair for the duration of our party's primary process. The committee consists of myself, Marnie Delaney of France, Robin Emerson of Kenya, Sam Kuzanzi of the United Arab Emirates, Emily Lines of Germany, Edgar Lopez of Mexico, Suma Shamana of India, and our international chair, Martha McDevitt Pugh, who's also based in the Netherlands, and our international vice chair, Steve Nardi, who's based in Canada. Okay, so becoming a delegate, we have going into an overview. So about Democrats Abroad. Democrats Abroad is the official U.S. Democratic State Party for the 9 million U.S. citizens living outside the United States. Our mission is to mobilize the overseas vote and help broadcast and support Americans outside the United States, and focusing on issues in D.C. We're a 100% volunteer-run and low-dollar donor-funded organization. Democrats Abroad has committees in more than 48 countries and members in more than 190 countries. Democrats Abroad will send 21 delegates to the Democratic National Convention in 2024. So what does a delegate do? It represents Democrats abroad and shows off who we are to the Democratic Party, the United States, and even the world, demonstrating our energy, our diversity, and our mission. It speaks with the media and makes sure our key 2024 message is conveyed to as many media reps as possible. Americans abroad can vote from abroad. Our votes count. And if you're an American abroad, here's how you can vote too. Go to votefromabroad.org and request your ballot now. You're going to join daily DA delegation meetings. You're going to actively participate in the convention. You're going to attend events during the day and then in the evenings after the convention. You're going to be spreading the word about Democrats abroad. You're going to bring our candidates' values and interests to the convention. And if your candidate is not the eventual nominee, you're going to work to come together in support of our nominee moving towards the general election. And you're going to return home and use your delegate experience to help our nominee to the White House. The cost of being a delegate. You have the airfare to Chicago. This is going to vary depending on your location. Many carriers, including Delta, United, and American, fly to Chicago. Hotel per night is about $349 a night. Staying in this hotel is not a requirement. The DNC does pick hotels for certain state parties to be in. And we are staying at a hotel close to United Center, and we'll be staying with different states, but you can pick a different hotel or an Airbnb. This is just the DNC suggested hotel for our group. Food and incidentals. We have bumped this up just a little bit, just so you're well covered. We put $500 in addition to travel costs. Plan to spend at least $75 a day on food and $25 a day on incidentals. The convention schedule will likely keep you at the arena, where food will be expensive. And for financial support, Democrats Abroad is unable to provide reimbursements for all convention attendees. We will help run sessions on how to fundraise for travel costs, and you'll hear about that today. But please keep in mind that many events, there are free food and beverage that will be offered to you as you socialize and spread DA's message, mingle with other state parties. And Bob, can you give some of your experience or suggestions on fundraising and tell us what it was like to be at the convention?
Sure. Actually, I've got 2.5 things to say, and this is one of them about the costs, about fundraising. I've been to the convention 4 times in my life, twice as a delegate. And the 2 times I went as a delegate, it was on behalf of Democrats abroad. So that meant I was flying from Europe, once to Charlotte, North Carolina, and once to, where was the other one? I don't remember. They all run together. When you've been to one, you've been to them all. So, but before I talk about fundraising, I want to just say 2 quick sentences about what a delegate does not do. Does not do. You're going to have to, a campaign for this. There's going to be lots of people running, and you're going to want to try to solicit the votes of the various people who will elect you. There will be structured opportunities to do that. Shortly before the Democrats Abroad National Convention, you'll have a complete list of voters. You'll be able to contact them. You'll be able to make videos, etc. And over the years, I have seen this countless times. Candidates for delegate want to adopt a very sort of activist stance on things. They want to say things like, I'm going to go to the convention and stick it to the man. I'm going to tell the DNC that they can't do this. I'm going to speak directly to President Biden and tell him that he must end the war in the middle. You're not going to do any of those things, right? You're not. It's just a fact. You're not going to do any of those things. So it might be prudent in your campaign literature to not even go there. What you are going to do, as it said very clearly on the previous slide, is represent Democrats abroad. And those people who are elected will have a press training, so they know how to talk to the media. They'll have a sort of, for lack of a better word, guide to schmoozing, because there's lots of schmoozing to be done there, not just with people who are in positions of power, but people who are like you, other delegates from other state parties, and they have similar interests to you, and they want to know about us, Democrats abroad, because they really don't know about us at all. So in that schmoozing, you're going to be spreading the gospel, as it were, of Democrats abroad. And that's really, in all honesty and all candor, the primary function of the delegate. Yes, you're going to vote for the candidate, and you're going to vote at a couple of other times as well. But mostly you're going to be really, truly representing Democrats abroad. So I just want to be clear about that. So honestly, you'll have a better chance of winning when the campaign begins. All right, so costs. The two times that I was a delegate, I was in a less financially interesting position than I am now. And so I relied on the kindness of not so strangers. I set up a GoFundMe type of account. I can't remember which platform I used exactly. It was GoFundMe or the other one, or I don't know. They come and go, right? You could use Venmo even, I suppose. And I was very clear, I'm excited to be a delegate for Bernie to this convention, but I'm going to need your help to get there. And I offered perks. I did this all on social media, by the way. So it was my friends on Facebook. And, most of the people I'm friends with on Facebook, I'm really friends with. They're not just people who I don't know. And so I was very honest. I said, I'm excited to be a delegate, but I'm going to need your help. This is what it's going to cost. This is how much money I'm going to raise. I need to raise in order to do this. And I offered them perks of different sorts. So one of the perks was like the insider view, right? So periodically I would go on Facebook Live. I put everybody in a group, right? So only the group could see it. And, did behind the scenes kinds of things. As a delegate, you have pretty expansive access throughout the convention sites, not 100%, but pretty close to it. So you can see things and do things that even the press can't do, right? And so giving people a perspective of being on the floor during it was a fight basically between the Bernie delegates and everybody else that year. There were protests which were not covered on the media. They were not broadcast in prime time on the major networks. They were barely alluded to in the press. But, because people donated to me, I brought them the inside skinny on things. So that was a perk. There's gazillions of opportunities to buy bling and merch at the convention. The official stuff costs a lot of money. The official Biden-Harris t-shirt's probably going to be about $40 or $50. It's kind of ridiculous. But guess what? Um, there's lots of unofficial vendors outside the site who are selling things at half the price or less. And they're maybe cheaper quality, and those guys are pocketing the money and not giving it to the Biden-Harris campaign. But you know, my donors didn't know the difference. So I was able to, even there was the other site was Philadelphia, and in Philadelphia, somebody was selling because a game of House of Cards was very popular at the moment, and Kevin Spacey hadn't yet been canceled. So there was Francis Underwood for President T-shirts that were being sold, and people were snatching them up left and right. So I got a couple of those for people, and some group, I think it was the Nurses Union, their bling that they were giving away, they were giving this away, were Peter Pan hats. Peter Pan, Rob from, not Peter Pan, sorry, Robin Hood. It's the same hat, really. Robin Hood hats, take from the rich and give to the poor, right? And they had left a box of them unattended with the phrase "take one." So three of us total, two cohorts. We took the whole box, which we probably should not have done, but it became bling, right, for people who donated. There's buttons for sale. All of the affiliate groups of the Democratic Party, like the Human Rights Commission and Emily's List and Planned Parenthood, they all have, there's like a sort of market there for all of these different groups. And they were all selling their own bling too. So I know that there were a few of my donors who specifically wanted a Planned Parenthood t-shirt, and I was able to get that. And there's a little bit of barter that goes on too. You can sort of say, look, I want to buy 4 of these, and they'll give you a discount. So, but those are the kinds of perks that your donors really appreciate. And so I was able to finance the entirety of my trip as a delegate, the entirety of it. That included getting the bling, that included posting it in the mail. I was able to cover everything through semi-aggressive solicitations of my friends on social media using a GoFundMe style account. And so if you're selected or elected, I guess, then as a delegate, then you can and should begin on that immediately. And really sort of push frequently, not every 3 hours or whatever, but a couple of times a week, remind people that you're doing this, and they will, because they're excited to know somebody who's going to be a delegate. So you will be able to finance a good chunk of it if you adopt a strategy similar to the one I just described. Think about your own perks or advantages that you want to offer people who support you. Maybe you want to do it the Bernie way and say, I'm only going to take $27 in donations or whatever. You certainly won't be able to get corporate donations anyway, so don't even think about that. But voila, that's how I did it, and that's how you can do it too. I think there was a hand up. I saw a thing float across the screen, so I don't know if that's true, but if it is, if somebody wants to ask a question, they can.
Thank you for sharing your insights, Bob.
Yes.
I do know there was another delegate who asked people to sponsor her various meals for the day, sponsor my lunch on this day and dinner on this day, so that's also an option. So I'm going to move on to the next slide if there's no questions for Bob. Travel grants. So you have 2 options to be elected. You can be elected at a global convention in Costa Rica or your regional conventions. And Democrats Abroad is going to be able to offer 3 travel grants. This will be going to our global convention in Costa Rica. The awards are for $500 each. Completed applications and reference letters will be due by tomorrow, 11:50 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And you'll need to ask a DPCA member to submit a letter of reference. A DPCA member is going to be your country chair, your country vice chair, someone on your board, or one of your voting representatives for your country. You're going to complete and submit the application. The link will be placed in the chat now, and then recipients will be notified no later than April 23rd, and awards will be distributed as reimbursements directly to the recipients during the Global Convention and DPCA meeting in Costa Rica. Full in-person attendance, barring a verifiable emergency, is required to receive the award. And then I'll pop that link in the chat box shortly. And so for the national convention, we have recently learned that the International Board of Democrats Abroad has voted to approve at least 2 travel grants to the national convention. We know 2 for sure. If this changes or updates, we'll let you know. These are going to be for $500 each. The full details have yet to be confirmed, but the Affirmative Action Committee will be responsible for handling the application process and awarding these grants. The application process will open up after the Costa Rica meeting, and the application details will be emailed to everyone who has applied to be a delegate. The Affirmative Action Committee will try to get you these details as soon as possible once the applications have been received to be a delegate. And the application process will consist of an online application, a personal statement, and a reference letter. So the elections. What's going to happen at the regional conventions? Regional electors will use ranked choice voting to elect 9 at-large delegates, and regional electors will also elect 3 regional DA-DNC members. Democrats abroad, we operate as a state party, so we have our own DNC members. These members will also attend the convention and are required to go to most of all of the DNC meetings in the US a year. What happens at the global convention? Global electors will use ranked choice voting to elect 3 at-large delegates, 1 party leader, an elected official delegate, and 1 alternate. Global electors will also elect 3 global DA-DNC members. DA will also discuss and adopt the Democrats Abroad platform. So as Bob mentioned, if you wanted to have a say-so on things at the convention, that's not the place to do it. But Democrats Abroad has just opened our platform sessions, and so you can have a say-so and comment on the DA's Democratic platform that will go to the convention. So you can attend the regional and global conventions online, and you can attend in person for the global convention in Costa Rica. You do not need to attend in person to run to be a delegate, but it does not hurt to be present and mingle or reach out to the electors online, hold Zoom sessions, email them just so they get to know you. So the elections continued. Electors for a regional convention may include the regional vice chair representing the region, all elected country committee officers and DPCA voting representatives, and elected or recognized chapter chairs for each country committee. Electors for the global convention may include regionally elected delegates to the 2024 National Convention, current automatic delegates, so these are DNC members serving from 2020 to 2024, and then newly elected automatic delegates. These are the DNC members that would have been elected at the regional conventions 2 months prior. DPCA members and distinguished party leaders designated by the Secretary of the Democratic National Committee. A list of approved electors will be made available to those of you who apply to be a delegate. Everyone had the option to opt in to share that information, so you were provided with a list so you know directly who to contact. The road to the convention. So here's a timeline with some dates that you may be wondering. So we held our global presidential primary between March 5th and March 12th. The delegate candidate forms became available on March 26th. The delegate candidate form submission deadline is April 19th. So our Credentials and Rules Committee will be confirmed on or by April 26th. And the Asia Pacific Regional Convention / delegate election will be held online May 25th. The Europe, Middle East, and Africa Regional Convention / delegate election will be held online May 26th. And the Americas Regional Convention / delegate election will be held online and in person in Costa Rica May 30th. And our annual global convention slash delegate election will happen the following day in Costa Rica, in person and online, May 31st to June 1st. Delegate selection deadline will be June 21st. And then we have the big day, the convention, the big week, I should say, August 19th through August 22nd. So the delegates. Candidates must have earned at least 15% of our primary vote in our global presidential primary to be allocated delegates. For our results, President Biden will receive all of DA's 13 delegates. You can see the breakdown of the votes there on the right. These verified results were announced by the International Chair on March 19th. In case you are wondering, Representative Phillips did not make the Democrats abroad ballot as he did not receive enough signatures to be on our ballot. So a little bit about the Affirmative Action Committee. The 2024 Democrats Abroad Affirmative Action Committee consists of Democrats Abroad members appointed by the International Chair with the task of encouraging all Democrats Abroad members, especially those from historically disadvantaged groups, to participate in the 2024 delegate selection process. The Affirmative Action Committee's primary goal is to strive for Democrats Abroad's delegation to the 2024 Democratic National Convention to accurately reflect the diversity of Democrats abroad. Our roles and responsibilities have included participation in creation of the delegate selection plan. This is a large document every state, party, and territory comes up with. It details how we would conduct our primary process, how we award our delegates, how we elect the delegates, all of which have been approved by the Democratic National Committee. We will advocate for engagement of broad and diverse membership, contribute to development of affirmative action goals, and ensure outreach throughout membership and beyond, and monitor accessibility of process and materials. Our work thus far. We have finalized our delegate representation goals after analyzing voter data from the Democratic electorate across the United States. We have conducted a diversity survey of our membership to better learn where we need to engage more and connect with, a final report of which will be presented to the Global Executive Committee. And we worked with the communications team on diversity messaging and especially trying to reach out to members who are not members of Democrats Abroad. So our representation goals. On the screen, you can see our goals. These are goals. We are trying our best. Some people will fit into multiple categories and some not at all. Democrats Abroad has determined that the demographic composition of the underrepresented groups in the Democrats Abroad Democratic electorate is consistent with the demographic composition of Democratic Party support across the nationwide Democratic electorate. And these numbers were approved by the voting body of elected Democrats Abroad officials and the DNC's Rules and Bylaws Committee. I also want to mention that our delegation has also included people who did not subscribe to any of these labels. So don't let this scare you if you feel like you do not fit one of them. Our delegation will be made of some of these people, some different people. So on to the DNC. Chicago, join us in 24. We will send, as I mentioned, a delegation of 21 in total. For the full breakdown, there will be 8 automatic delegates. This will include the international chair and vice chair of Democrats Abroad, plus our 6 DNC members. This was previously called super delegates, but that has been changed. And then we have the 13 elected delegates. So one will be a party leader or elected official who will be elected at the global convention. So if you hold an elected position in your country, you can apply for this position. And then there are 12 at-large delegates elected during the regional and global conventions, 9 of which will be elected at the 3 regional conventions, and 3 will be elected at the global convention. Additionally, 1 alternate will be elected for the presidential candidate. So you will be participating in the convention as full, but this alternate position, if someone's in the bathroom, someone's unable to make it to the floor for a roll call vote, then the alternate will step into that position. And then there will also be some pages selected by the international chair, who just help make sure our delegation is in the right place and dinner reservations are made, whatnot. And to facilitate your elections, you can run simultaneously both at the regional and global level. If you are elected first at the regional level, then of course you would drop out at the global level. But this gives our members multiple chances to run and be elected. So our international executive committee have been going back and forth to the US viewing the convention sites. So on the left, we have the chair of the DNC, Jamie Harrison, pictured with our international chair. On the right, Martha McDevitt Pugh, and to his left is our international vice chair, Steve Nardi. And we just have some pictures here of the convention process. These are some pictures from the last convention, the last in-person convention, I should say, which was 2016. The 2020 convention, of course, was all online due to the pandemic. So our role as a committee, diversity, inclusion, and engagement. All voting members will be continually reminded of our goals ahead of the vote. So each time we elect a delegate, we will let people know where we stand, which boxes we have, for lack of a better term, checked off. During the conventions, we will regularly update voters on screen. So those in the room and the voters also participating online will be updated on screen and via the chat box. It is important to remember, and I will continuously reiterate this, these are goals for diversity. A delegation will include members who have not been identified by the committee. And if you're not one of the highlighted underrepresented groups, it will not bar you from running at all. And it will definitely not bar you from being elected. So no worries on that. So this could be you. Democrats Abroad will send a list of those who apply to be a delegate to each campaign. So in this case, just the Biden campaign. The campaigns will return a list of approved delegate candidates for each position by April 26th. If you are included on your campaign's list, Democrats Abroad will notify you within 48 hours and then onward to the conventions. Now, there is no rhyme or reason as to the selection of delegate candidates by the campaigns. In previous years, some campaigns approved everyone. Some campaigns have rejected some people. I can't really tell you, that's an internal campaign process. So delegate candidate forms are available on the website. I will also pop the link in the chat following this presentation, so you have that. You can apply and start the campaign, and let's make 2024 our most diverse delegation yet. And then what do we need from you? If there's anyone on this call who is actively involved in their country committee or is an elected leader, please keep this delegation process in mind. If you know any other American in your country committees, please spread the word. If they're a member of Democrats Abroad, or if they're not a member but a Democrat, please spread that. And we will continue to be available for one-on-one sessions via emails, any calls, for any last-minute questions you have up until the application process closes, dealing with the distribution of the travel grants or any help you may require. And this is the committee's email. That concludes the presentation. So if there's any questions, now is your chance to ask them, and I will drop those links that I promised in the chat box.
I'd add one more thing to all of that very excellent presentation of the bulk of the material, Trey, and that is this. There really is not an inside game on this, by which I mean the electors have not and will not already conspire amongst themselves there's too many of them, first of all, to say, oh, we want to elect this person or that person. It's not the case that only people who play an active role in Democrats Abroad get elected. The electors are really very open-minded and open to helping to elect a slate of candidates that really looks like Democrats Abroad. So everybody has an equal opportunity, but making that opportunity real depends upon your approach to the electors, the campaign that you undertake to get elected. Like I said, we will read everything. We will study your candidacies. And if you want to talk to somebody, all you have to do is solicit them, and you can have a conversation and persuade them. There's also not an inside game with regard to affirmative action. It's not the case, for example, that we will say, oh, we've already elected our Hispanic Latino candidate, and therefore no others need be considered at this point. That's not how it works. We try to elect the best possible group of candidates. So just so you have a sense of that, I thought I'd say it, period.
Thank you for that, Bob. That is a very important thing to add.
I do have a few questions. Oh, sorry, Christy, raise your hand. Please go ahead.
Okay. I'm new to Democrats Abroad. I've been in Japan for 8 years though. And I'm new to this whole process, but I really want to get involved. I'm just wondering, when you say like campaigning to be a delegate, what do you mean? Do we, like, I haven't looked at the form yet in
Mhm.
order to fill it out and express my interest in going to the convention. But
Mhm.
what can you explain just how this process works about campaigning?
You want me to do that, Trey?
I can start and then you can take over since you have some
Okay.
experience. In my experience, I've been an elector. I did campaign right when I moved here. I think back in 2016, so no one really knew me. I was fresh off the plane. I had a cheap website. My husband has his own company, so I just made a separate offline page that had a little bio and a picture about me. A lot of people make a basic Facebook page, a private one. And then when you get the list of electors, you can email them all, say that I would like to have a conversation with you or host open Zoom sessions. Also, make sure you reach out to your country committee. There's a very good chance that they will support you and help campaign on your behalf. And the Affirmative Action Committee is looking at hosting candidate sessions. So we have like an online forum where a bunch of people can come and say their basic bio, why they want to be a delegate, if that would help facilitate you all. And if Bob, if
Okay.
you have anything to add.
Yeah. The first time I was elected delegate, I had not been involved for very long either. Democrats Abroad was a different institution at the time. This was in 2012, so it was before the twin earthquakes of Bernie one year and Trump the next, both of which, for different kinds of reasons, brought an influx of new members into Democrats Abroad for reasons that I'm sure you can understand. So it was a much smaller group at the time, but still, I didn't know anybody, and nobody really knew me. So I just started talking to people. Somebody here in Paris who had a lot of experience said you should talk to this person and that person and the other person, and I followed their advice. I just wrote to them and said, "Hey, can we have a conversation?" And they were very open to it. And through that conversation, I think, I probably won their vote. You'll get a list of electors. They're all over the world. They're various elected leaders in the different country committees, and you'll be able to do that. Trey mentioned a website. He's also, not so very long ago, he made a very glitzy campaign video to become the chair of DANL. So you could do that, and that helps. And there'll be some structured opportunities, I think. 4 years ago, I forget which platform we used, but we had a couple of drop-in events over the course of 3 hours. There were different sort of rooms with electors in them, and candidates could hop from room to room and meet several electors all at the same time, make their case, answer some questions, etc. So campaign maybe is too fancy of a word for what you have to do, but in all honesty, it is kind of a campaign.
And do you know in general, like how many people apply to be a delegate versus how many get selected?
Well,
Is it like
13 get
10%
selected.
or
No, it's even lower than that, I'm afraid. I don't remember the exact numbers. I do remember the first year that I ran back in 2012, there were about 150 candidates for 13 slots. I think it was much bigger the Bernie year. And, you know, Team Bernie was particularly well organized to elect a maximum number of very passionate delegates to our group. And then 4 years ago, because it was the whole COVID situation, I don't remember at all how many candidates. I remember there were a lot, but I don't remember how many exactly. But there are a lot. There's going to be over 100 for sure.
okay? Thank you.
And next, I think it was Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Trishan. I have a few questions about the mechanics. Thanks, first of all, for everyone's time. I really appreciate it. I having looked through the application form, I have a few questions about that, and then I'm curious about Bob's opinion about what the convention will look like, given that it's not a contested convention. What what the role of the delegate will look like as compared to those years when it was contested. But if I can just go first to the application form, just to make sure I understand correctly, there's a list of positions that you can run for, you can apply for it. So there's one that says all positions.
Yes.
And then there's the at-large national convention delegate. There's the party leader elected official delegate, which I don't think I don't think I would fall under that category. And then there's a bunch of committees, and I'm just trying to understand, those committees are the rules and bylaws, platform, credentials. Those are committees that would serve at the global convention. Is that right?
I'm pulling this up as you
Or
speak.
are those are committees that have a function at the national convention in Chicago, or they're
Yes. So
roles within
it's
Democrats abroad to be served at the global convention?
yeah, so the committees, I'm just pulling up the application so I can see everything that was listed there. But for example, the Rules and Bylaw Committee, they will start their work soon and will go through the global and then also have some work at the convention because the official platform that we bring will be worked on at the convention and up until it's voted on. I might have popped the wrong link in the chat. I just noticed. Sorry about that. And then your other question, you can run for several things. So if you're not an elected leader on the board in your country, you can't do the pleo, but then you can run for all the other ones. If you want to be on the committee, if you're interested in being the alternate, or you can run for as many as you want to. And like I said, run at both levels, the regional and the global as well.
I think I got it. And again, just to be sure that you're saying, Trishan, these first committees, platform, rules and bylaws, they'll have obligations, responsibilities, involvement prior to the global convention, as well as through the global convention onward to the national convention.
Yes. I'm not sure what level of involvement because I haven't served on those committees, but I do know that at the convention there are sessions where they're breaking out and working on things and have to update and change things. So there will be some involvement there.
Understood. And you're saying that they're participating in the writing of the Democrats Abroad platform to be presented to the national, the DNC.
Yes,
right? To be
Democrats are. We just started that position, so it's going to go on for that process. So it's going to go on for a while, and we're going to have open commenting periods, so people will be able to submit some things that they want to see in the platform. We'll have open town halls where all of our members and leaders can come and work on that. And so we'll come up with a draft document that we'll approve. Of course, it'll go to the convention, and then if any last minute changes needs to be worked on, that'll happen.
Understood. Okay. All right, thanks. That's helpful. And then, once we establish the platform, once we elect a delegation, we're there to speak with one voice, and I can understand that. So, oh, I see a very French wave of the head on Bob's end. Maybe maybe you can go ahead and explain about what your viewpoint is, because I'm very curious. Now that we've got a candidate to support, I feel that it's important that we do our best to contribute. Now, if our role as Democrats abroad is to raise awareness and so forth, it's I'm trying to understand how we balance those various responsibilities at the convention.
Well, let me back up a couple of steps there and work my way down to that. I've been to 4 conventions. 2 of them have been renominating conventions, and 2 of them have been so-called contested conventions, even though the eventual nominee had more than enough delegates to secure it. Very different vibes, extremely different vibes, right? I went to the Clinton renominating convention as press. And I went to the Obama renominating convention as a delegate. When you're going to a renominating convention like this one is going to be, then there's just not a lot of drama going on the sides. There's not, there is a sense of unity among everybody there, a sense of urgency even. So it's a pretty good feeling overall, and you feel almost like you're like on some sort of wave of history or whatever, doing something important, and in a contested place. I went to one the Bernie Hillary convention as a Bernie delegate. And I went to another as that was the Obama convention because I was on the staff of the Obama campaign. So multiple different perspectives. It is weird when you're at one of those because there are there's competing interests. There are people trying to get you to change votes. There are, smoke-filled rooms with the barons of the Democratic Party sitting in them, making deals. It's very, very different. So this is going to be a renominating convention. This is going to be a good feeling. We're going to be unified, but there are some issues, some big, important issues there, political issues, global issues, like the situation in the Middle East. That's going to create some peripheral drama, some divisiveness, perhaps. There's still time to hopefully get to some sort of ceasefire between now and then, which will help. Most importantly, those people who are there being bombed. But there is a little bit of drama on the side that generally takes place on the margins of the convention. So you will see it only if you go looking for it, or if you want to participate in it. Technically, officially, Democrats Abroad does not adopt or publicize a position on the situation in the Middle East. Not because we're heartless, soulless individuals, but because we have members who are living in Israel, who are living in Syria, who are living in Lebanon, who are living in Egypt. And, if we say something that could inflame passions in those countries, then those members who are living there suddenly become at risk. They're American targets. So that's one of the reasons why we don't say anything about foreign affairs. And that doesn't mean at all that a delegate could not participate in a protest at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago about the situation. We don't monitor you that closely, first of all. And we believe that you're free and responsible individuals. And so if you're Politics incline you to participate in such a protest, nobody is going to stop you from doing so. We might ask that you not wear a Democrats Abroad t-shirt to that protest. But again, we're not going to ban you or whatever other verb you want to use there if you do. I don't know if that illustration adequately responds to the content of the question that you're asking. But if it's not, let me know and I can add some more.
That's very helpful. Thanks. That's the tenor of what I'm trying to understand. You know that I do feel that while we're there to support the candidate, it's also important that Democrats abroad reflect the views of our international membership. All right. Thanks. That's that. Yeah, very helpful.
Right. Are there any more questions? All right, if there's no more questions, I will end the recording shortly. Just please make sure you note down our email address to reach the Affirmative Action Committee, diversity@democratsabroad.org. Any questions that arise or any last-minute phone calls you wish to have, we are here to help.
I think
Christy?
Christy?
Yes.
Yeah, I just have one other quick question. So again, I'm really new to all this. This is my first call in relation to the Democrats abroad. But so after this, once we fill out the application, we will get a list of people that we can talk to and reach out to either electronically or with a phone call to express our interest in being a delegate. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm not sure how soon you will get the list because we've just been asked, I think, a few days ago, to provide our information, opt in for privacy reasons.
Electors do have to opt in. So some of them may say, please don't email me or whatever, which makes things a little bit more complicated. But then, the workaround for that, just to anticipate that, they all belong to country committees, right? So then there's more than one in each country committee. So if you can't access somebody because they said, I'm not publishing my email, you can say to somebody else in that country committee, hey, could you put me in contact with this person?
And how do we find out who are the different country contacts?
The hard way to do it is to look on the website under each country because there's a list of leaders there published, elected officials, the chair, vice chair, etc. The easier way is to be a little bit patient and wait for this list of electors because all of the electors are elected officials in each country committee.
Okay, thank you. Well, this was super helpful and interesting. Thank you very much.
No problem, and I hope to see you all running, or at least getting involved in some type of way. And if you just feel so inclined, if you don't make it as a delegate and wish to go to the convention, a lot of the outside activities and sessions and meetings with Congress and senators are free and open to the public, I've heard this year. So,
so if we're not selected, we could actually come and participate.
yes, I'm not sure if you'll be able to be on the floor. That depends on how many extra guest tickets we receive. Our international chair was unsure if we will get any, but I've been assured that a lot of the sessions and things happening in and around the convention, it's in several different locations, are open to the public.
There are two principal convention sites. One is the McCormick Center for the daytime activities, and the other is the United Center, which is for prime time. You only ever see when these happen every 4 years what happens during prime time. That's all the big glorious speeches by the big glorious people, but the fun stuff happens during the day. Apparently this year during the day at the McCormick Center, all of those are going to be open. We're not yet sure on the process if you have to get some sort of ticket or whatever. We're working on getting to those details. Several people are in Chicago this week for meetings about the convention, so there'll be more information forthcoming. But the kinds of activities that happen during the day are like the different caucus meetings, the LGBT caucus, the women's caucus, etc. And those have big names coming through to give glorious speeches as well. They're pretty exciting. And there's also the different regional meetings and sometimes state party meetings. There's all sorts of stuff going on during the day. That's where the market is, of the different peripheral and related groups like the HRC and Planned Parenthood, etc., is all going to be there in the McCormick Center as well. And if you don't know it, it's an enormous place, the McCormick Center. It covers something like 8 football fields of floor space. So I think there's plenty of room for everybody.
All right. Do we have any more questions?
I do think everybody should give it a shot because you never know what's going to happen. And remember, the answer is always no if you don't ask. So it's worth asking. It's a fun experience if you take it seriously and get to know people. And if you do that, you might just win. And if you win, it's really an awesome experience.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to stop the recording and call this meeting to a close. Thank you all for attending. I appreciate your interest and always thank you for supporting Democrats Abroad.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trishan.
Bye-bye.
Bob, thanks, Robin.